Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Adam's Music Box. Obviously, this is a music channel, but there's only one story in the world today, and that is that hours ago, former President Donald Trump and current presidential candidate Donald Trump survived an assassination attempt while he was speaking at a rally in Pennsylvania. From the video footage that the world has seen, the would-be assassin's bullet grazed the ear. I believe it was the right ear of the former president, and he was covered in blood once he came to his feet. But other than that, appears to be uninjured. A member of the audience was killed in the crossfire, and another was apparently very seriously injured. The would-be assassin was shot and killed by law enforcement. So, for those who haven't heard the news, that's what's dominating the headlines today. And because this is a music show on a music channel, I was thinking about music and how that can relate to people at a time like this. I think a lot of people are angered, disturbed, distressed, worried, shocked, saddened by what happened. And this takes me back to a song that was originally released in the late 1960s, and it's been covered by so many different artists over the years. It originally was a single in 1968 for Dion, and that was the most famous version of the song. But it's been done by everyone from Smokey Robinson to Marvin Gaye to Harry Belafonte. So many versions of the song. Whitney Houston even did a version, and Leonard Nimoy did one of his famous deadpan versions, a sort of spoken version. Wilson Pickett, one of my favorite singers ever, did it. Marillion, the progressive rock band, did a version. Ray Charles did it. And so many others have referenced the song. It's one of those songs that was instantly a classic because it spoke to people at a time who were reeling from multiple assassinations of major figures, including a president. So just think of the people who, within a few short years, were assassinated in the 1960s. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas in 1963. Then in 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated in Memphis. And shortly thereafter, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, who was at the time a presidential candidate, he was killed at the other end of an assassin's bullet in Los Angeles. Now, the song Abraham, Martin, and John references most of these assassinations. It harkens back to a very infamous US presidential assassination of the 19th century, that of Abraham Lincoln, who was shot at the end of the war over which he presided. It references by name John, as in John Kennedy, Martin, as in Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the song also mentions Bobby, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The song was only released very shortly after, just a few months after Senator Robert Kennedy was killed in LA. And the song really spoke to people, not just in the US, but around the world, particularly the Dion version, because that was how most people came to know the song. But all of the various cover versions were also very well respected by music critics, very much beloved by music audiences. I'm just going to maybe read you some of the lyrics. I would play it for you, but obviously YouTube copyright rules don't take the day off. But I can read you some of the lyrics. Anyone here seen my good friend Abraham? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but it seems the good they die young. You know, I just looked around and he's gone. Anybody here seen my old friend John? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but it seems the good they die young. I just looked around and he's gone. Now, you can see here what the lyrics do. The lyrics to every verse are pretty much the same. There are some minor variations, but they're mostly the same. And it's, in that sense, a kind of elegy for different men who, in one case, was living at a different time, and tying it together with the figures who lived in Dion's time in the 1960s. And it was a very unique move in many ways to write a kind of very poetic elegy-like song to people who were victims of assassination. Because while pop music was very political in the 60s, arguably at its peak in terms of being political, writing about assassinations or attempted assassinations is never very easy because it naturally makes people uncomfortable. It's something that the vast majority of normal people do not want to see. And by coming out with this song, Dion was providing a kind of tonic, providing a kind of relief for peoples of the world who had really been shaken again and again and again by the deaths, the very public deaths of very public figures who would have been remembered throughout the ages if they had lived. These, of course, were not figures who gained infamy or fame, for that matter, through their assassinations. These were larger than life figures in their lives. And then they were lost to an assassin's bullet. Malcolm X wasn't mentioned in the song, but he, of course, was also assassinated at around this time, and that was part of this whole atmosphere in the 1960s. Now, assassinations, of course, haven't gone away globally or or in the US for that matter, which is what we're talking about. There was an attempted assassination in 1972 of Alabama Governor George Wallace. There's a music connection there too, because prior to that assassination, he was mentioned in the Leonard Skinner song Sweet Home Alabama, not by name, but a clear reference to the governor. And then in the early 1980s, in his first term, President Reagan was shot by a would-be assassin. He survived. I don't recall any particular music about that event, however. And then fast forward to just a few hours ago, where someone tried to assassinate Donald Trump, a former president who may well become a president once again. So if there was ever a day to sit back, reflect on what's going on and what has gone on, I think this is probably the day. So definitely listen to this song. Type it into Spotify, listen to the various versions. I'd probably start with the Dion one because that is the one that's most well known. And think about where we've come, where we've gone since the 60s. Have things improved? Have things got worse? Have things stayed the same? There's the old expression, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So all of that is something for you and for all of us to think about. I might as well finish the final verses of the song because there's only two more. So, um, anybody here seen my old friend Martin? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but it seems the good they die young. I just looked around and he's gone. Didn't you love the things they stood for? Didn't they try to find some good for you and me? And we'll be free someday soon. It's gonna be one day. Anybody here see my old friend Bobby? Can you tell me where he's gone? I thought I saw him walking up the hill with Abraham, Martin, and John. And so that's how the song ends. Obviously, you'll want to listen to it to hear the original version and the many covers. So take care, everyone out there. It's a wild world, as Cat Stevens said. It does help my world if you like and subscribe. So if you could, maybe you would. Bye bye, everyone.